Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Mike, back with some more Cowboys talk. And today it's all about Dak, Micah, and Mike McCarthy. So I mentioned those three guys, so I'm pretty sure most Cowboys fans know what I'm talking about. So, are the stars in Dallas advocating for Mike McCarthy to come back, or is this just all talk? I have my own opinions on this topic, but before we get into it, can you do me a favor and drop a like and subscribe to the channel so I keep giving you guys this sports content? It would be much appreciated. So, remember after the Cowboys game when they were playing the Eagles and they had just gotten blown out? I personally can't forget it. But when I was watching that game, it was really closer than most people want to admit, but the final score doesn't reflect that. So at that game afterwards, you could see that Micah was super frustrated because basically at that point, season's cooked, players are getting injured left and right, and Dak was injured the game prior, and that ended up being way more serious than expected, and now he's out for the season. So Mike McCarthy, as he should, is now in the hot seat. A bunch of blowout losses at home since the Green Bay playoff game, and now it looks like he won't be back as head coach. So obviously the reporters do their job, and as the star player in Micah, they're asking him, should Mike McCarthy be back next year? But Micah Parsons, when he answered that question, was he gave him a little cryptic answer. And the media obviously ran with it. So let's take a look at what he said first.
Just as I'm coming back.
Mike's on the final year of his contract, so outside there's of course going to be questions. What's the sentiment inside the locker room, and what do you tell people who are wondering about whether McCarthy will be your coach next year?
That's above my pay grade about if Mike is coaching again next year. But all coaching aside, Mike can leave and go wherever he wants. But guys, I kind of feel bad for guys like Zach Martin and guys who might be on their last year or on their way out. Because that's who I wanted to hold the trophy for. You want to win games and do great things with those type of legends who put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did. So those are the kind of guys that I have so much sympathy and hurt for.
You guys were 2-2.
So depending on who you talk to, you might either agree with what he said, hate what he said, or not really care at all. Well, I can tell you how the media pushed things. They pushed it as the locker room was falling apart and Michael was taking shots at Mike McCarthy, and that basically he's undermining Mike McCarthy's career. But for me, that is stretching things to make a story because he clearly feels for his guys, especially for someone like Zach Martin, who has done so much for the Cowboys organization and now won't get that opportunity to win a Super Bowl because it looks like he's on his way to retirement. And the reason I say that is because if you don't already know, Zach Martin is having season-ending ankle surgery, so the likelihood of him coming back next year is even more in doubt. So I understand Micah's frustration, and the media just twisted his words to make it sound like he was being super critical of Mike McCarthy when he's just clearly frustrated for his teammates. And I personally can't blame him for feeling that way because they are literally putting their lives on the line each play for a coach that can just get up and walk away to an extent. And I personally feel Mike is just doing the bare minimum just to stay in the good graces with Jerry Jones, even though it isn't beneficial to the players that he's supposed to be leading. But, oh man, this is just how the Cowboys have been. But it looks like Micah may have changed his tune a little bit. He flat out said when they asked him about Mike McCarthy, and I quote, "I would like a fair shot with everyone back, players and coaches, because the injuries kind of suck. And that's just how the season's basically going. And he also went on to say that he had a good relationship with Mike McCarthy and that it's always been good. So when I hear statements like that, to me, I understand what Micah was doing. He's a competitor, and he feels that the Cowboys can run it back with the same roster and with no injuries. And he's doing what a leader should do and advocate for his coach, because the unknown is scary. So, of course, okay, we'll take Mike. So I agree with why Micah said that. And Dak said something similar, but he was a little bit more aggressive in his want to have Mike McCarthy back. And he added a little caveat that threw some shade at Jerry in the process. Dak said he wholeheartedly believes in Mike and wants him back on his terms. And for me, that says, Jerry, stop interfering and let Mike McCarthy do his job without you messing things up and expecting Mike McCarthy to fix it. And I agree and disagree with this, just because the biggest issue that the Cowboys have is on the offensive side of the ball. And I think with Mike McCarthy's predictable play calling and even how he's acted when the season has looked very bad isn't what I want in a head coach. The Cowboys need two things in order to make a Super Bowl run. They need toughness and accountability. Two things I haven't seen under Mike McCarthy. Cowboys are one of the highest penalized teams in the NFL, and it was a problem before Mike McCarthy too. So he didn't bring in the toughness that the Cowboys needed, and part of that is Jerry's fault. Jerry doesn't like these strong-willed, tough coaches because he can't push them around. He likes agreeable guys that are nice. That for me isn't what the Cowboys need. They need a coach with the mentality of a Dan Campbell or Bill Belichick, because those guys are no nonsense and will get on you if you make mistakes. But Jerry will clash with those guys, so that's why he doesn't like coaches like that. Cannot push them around. And if you don't believe me, let's just think about the last 20 years when we had a real head coach that held players accountable and was tough towards them. Let's just look at the fallout that Jerry had with Jimmy Johnson. It was because Jerry wanted to do things Jerry's way. He didn't care what anybody else thought. He wanted to do things his way and thought he knew football more than anybody else. But Jimmy, the actual head coach, the guy that actually had to get the guys ready and be out there and be prepared and was winning you Super Bowls, felt that was hurting the team. And of course, Jerry, through everything, won the battle because he was able to get rid of Jimmy. But Jimmy won the war. Because the Cowboys haven't been to the Super Bowl in over 20 plus years. They've been trying and they've been coming short in embarrassing fashion over and over and over again. Because what Jerry prioritizes isn't the Cowboys' success, but it's the attention that the revenue, the attention that it generates, which in turn brings money. That's what he cares about. So I get it. Dak and Micah want Mike McCarthy back. But for me, I don't think it gets the Cowboys over the hump, especially during this rebuild. Because I don't care what anyone says, they're rebuilding. Jerry threw away this season and they're rebuilding. And the only way I'd be okay with bringing Mike McCarthy back is if he had play calling taken away from him and the Cowboys hired a young, hungry OC that understands how football is played today. Not in the 1990s. Today. 2024, 2025, 2026, how football is played today. That same, oh, let's run down the field, come back. Let's throw to the sidelines. Let's not incorporate too much motion because I'm concerned about my wide receivers running too much. GPS, it's like, what are we talking about? We can't have this type of mentality and expect to win. It just will not work. But again, I'm not mad at Dak and Micah standing up for McCarthy, advocating for their guy. I'm pretty sure they like him as a person. For me, at this point, that doesn't matter. I don't care how you are as a person if it's not helping the team. But they did what they're supposed to do. That's what leaders should do. Well, that's all I got, guys. It's just my opinion. You might feel different. It is what it is. That's all I got, Cowboys Nation. If you agree or disagree, drop a comment. Let me know what you think. I just want to thank you guys again for tuning in. And don't worry, we will right the ship eventually. I promise. I'm your boy Mecca Mike. That's MECCHA Mike. And I'm out.